It is Wednesday, September 11th here in the nation's capital. It's a beautiful week temperature-wise. It's almost getting that crisp fall in the morning here. We're going to get into NFL Week 1 and a whole lot more. Here's Riggo.
Okay. I was just thinking about this, Todd. The weather, and I've been out in it for the past 3 or 4 days. It's kind of leaning back the other way because I'm thinking towards the end of last week. Basically, I've been Farmer John for about the past 5 days. And I came to a conclusion yesterday while I was doing this. I'm overseeding my lawn, and actually part of it I have to actually seed but I got to tell you something. God bless all the people that are lawyers and movers and shakers and billionaires. God bless those folks. Because they're missing out on life, in my opinion. Anybody who works in an office, nothing. But I'm saying that's why
white collar versus man that's got his hands in the dirt.
I've always had my hands in the dirt, one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, I was literally, and then I got to thinking of my grandfather, who had an 80-acre farm, probably started farming in 1920. God only knows the hardships that him and my grandmother went through, and my mom, as they grew up, and where obviously, there's times when you feel that, and I remember as a kid putting up hay in Kansas, and I'll never forget, it was over at McLean's, it was putting up clover. Clover particularly is a bad product to mess with because it's so dusty. It gathers dew in the morning and it gets so dusty, you actually end up, I remember for a couple, 3 days afterwards, I'd blow my nose and I was just blowing black stuff out of my, because it gets down in your lungs. And it was like they had a tin barn, they had a roof on there, and I mean, literally it was like a pizza oven inside there. And I remember thinking to myself, I said, God, I don't never am I going to do this for a living. But here it is, 70 years later, basically, and you're kind of sitting here being able to appreciate being outside, the outdoors. I mean, that's where I've always been, I think. That's my mindset. I mean, my fantasies are about, guys like Kit Carson and Jim Bridger and, being a mountain man and making and surviving on your own. And that's what is so rewarding, I think, about doing stuff with your hands and being outside. So like I said, I was out there. I did hire some people to come in and do the aerating, which I've done in the past. But I thought, well, and then I was going to have. Then I got a big load of soil amendment. It was about 4 yards of it, and I was going to have them do it. And of course, the price was not right for the funky country boy. So I said, well, looks like
the appreciation of money.
I'm going in. So I went in all right, and I got to tell you, and I've done it so many times, and every time I'm going, I ain't never doing that again. I go right back and I do it again. But so you got to put in a wheelbarrow, walk it out in the yard, dump it, and then you get a rake and rake it back in. You do all this stuff, and then down below in another little patch that's just completely is unidentifiable. I mean, talk about the lower 40. This place, I mean, even cattle wouldn't graze back there. Maybe hogs, but not cattle. And it's not that big. It's about 500 square feet, maybe 6, 7, something like that. But I went back there with a hoe. I was originally, because I got this aerator that some guy made out of a disc, a disc brake, the disc itself. They're really heavy. Yeah. And then put the tines on there where you'll punch holes in the ground. I was going to do that, but I realized that isn't going to get the job done. Plus, the machine doesn't work very well, and it's just strictly manual. There's no motor or anything like that. So I decided to go ahead and take a hoe and bust up all that. And I'm telling you what, that was an afternoon's worth of work. And I'm going to tell you something.
The ground's pretty hard, isn't it?
Damn right it was hard.
We haven't had hardly any rain.
No, exactly. I thought about water before I did it. I thought, well, it's part of it went okay, but it's all about the angle of the hoe. You soon learn that as you're doing this. So I got that. So I started on Friday, I think. Went Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's been like every day now. I will say this, at age 75, I ain't going to give you a good solid 8 hours. It just ain't happening. If you're going to hire me.
Maybe an honest 4.
Yeah, with several rest stops in between. I wasn't too proud that I would go in and sit down and get out of the sun and have a drink of water. But the whole point where I'm going with this is that somehow it dawned on me, and like I said, I thought of my grandfather, that everybody wants to get away from that. And years ago, that was self-sufficiency to me is like, that's the key to everything. Because it's always, in my mind, when you depend on somebody else, many times you end up disappointed. Just like the people came out and did the aeration. They did okay, but it wasn't John Riggins level of work.
You've always not liked subcontracting out.
Nobody's
going to meet the Riggo approval process.
That's true. I don't know what that is, and I'm not even sure I meet it, Todd. Not anymore, anyway. But I'll tell you what, I think I did a pretty good job. Now, I've done this every year since I've lived in this place over in Maryland, and I mean, I've reseeded overseeded every year. The last couple of years have been dismal, and I hired one group to come in and overseed, and so I'm just kind of going along with it, and I'm watching, and he's got one of those a cyclone spreader,
right,
which pushes this stuff out, but it's on wheels. Now I've got one that you straps in and you go and you walk
hand
around.
Crank it.
Yeah, I got a little tub on me that's got all the seed in it, and I'm out there and I'm watching this guy, and he's walking along seeding, and he's looking at his cell phone, and I knew right away. I said, "That guy."
Are you the guy that after you sub it out, are you standing out there on the lawn just checking?
No,
them out?
I hate. That's another thing. I hate looking over people's shoulders.
Right, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get the job done.
Exactly, but I will say this: the last time they came out to do this aeration, this last time I was out there the whole time because I was watching, and I was keeping
Sergeant
score.
Riggins.
I didn't say anything. Thank God though that they must have sent down a foreman because there was two guys that showed up. One guy to run the machine, the other guy to go rake up some of the dead spots and pick it up and get it out of his way. But I could tell from the start that it wasn't going to go right because what they needed to do really was to rake it first, clear all that off, and then aerate it. They were trying to do, get more jobs done. You can see it. It's just, It's sloppy work.
Time is money.
Exactly.
Maybe
the
they
money they charge.
Their pregame plan to you, and then their game plan. And,
I tried to do that, but they kind of said, well, what'll they do? I asked the guy that set up the job. I said, what'll they do? Will they come out here and they'll rake it up first and then clean it all off and then they'll aerate? Well, no, they'll probably do it kind of as they go. And I thought right away, I was going, I don't know about that. But, it was either that or go to the rental shop, go over here to Sunbelt here in Tyson and rent another, an aerator like I did last year and getting it in and out of the truck and all that stuff. So I just had to swallow hard and pay for it.
Here's one for you. So about your front yard, that's good. That's good size. So what do you, 40, 50 yards?
I did total is about 5,000 square feet.
Okay, so what's that from your house to your front road there? 40 yards?
About 75. No. It's probably the actual lawn itself. I think measures 90 by about 75.
I think they may have latched onto something. You still have a lot of memorabilia. You still have a lot of cleats. You dust off a pair of your old cleats. You start doing two a days, maybe at your own pace.
Oh, so
now.
In other words, I go out and walk around with my cleats on.
Yeah, right. Maybe
that's a good thought.
Maybe some soft.
I mean, it's completely asinine, but it's a good thought. It ain't the way aeration works, Todd. You don't punch more ground down. You got to pull up the plugs and let the air in. You're just. I don't think. And plus, you know what? I mean, the longest cleats I ever wore, I think, was like what? Maybe. I don't think I ever wore even 3/4-inch cleats. Maybe
we can
5/8.
We can modify these bad boys.
Well, they've got things that you can buy that you can strap on your feet.
Didn't you have some of those at one point? Almost like sandals, but they got the big spikes on the
No,
bottom.
I've got some corkers, which they use out in the Northwest, to roll logs. Those guys that are, got those cleats on them like like old golf shoes. You remember the old golf shoes? That's what I got.
The guys on the rolling logs.
But let me wind this up, and then we can get on with the meat and potatoes. Is that seriously? It's something about when now this grass. This is the whole thing though that hangs in balance. Is the grass going to grow? Like I said, I have not had a lot of success, and I insist on planting bluegrass because that was my preferred grass to play on was bluegrass.
So you're trying to get that RFK feeling back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go out and take a few snaps if it comes in the way it's supposed to. In slow motion, of course. Very slow motion. But anyway, yeah. So I will finish by saying God bless, the lawyers, the doctors, and everybody who works in the corner office, all the C-suiters and all that stuff, because you're missing out on life, my friends. It's some of the good and some of the bad. So I enjoy it. So that's who I am. And I'm figuring it out.
That's
better
outstanding.
Late than never. never.
I think a lot of folks, and when they start getting up there in years or whatever, they kind of do get back in it. And communicating with nature and the great outdoors.
I agree with that.
However that manifests itself.
Which makes me look forward to this fall. Well, we're already getting really close to fall, but to the deer season out in Kansas. And I haven't camped in 3 years. The last year I camped was in 2020, and I keep thinking I'm going to do it because I'm feeling physically a little bit better, and I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, I anxiously await that annual sojourn because...
the one thing I ain't looking forward to is the drive.
Well, yeah, we got plenty of time because Rocky Raccoon usually shows up here in a couple of weeks.
I never even thought
Rocky
of that.
Raccoon on your property. And then you start packing, you start contemplating. You start doing your plus and minus columns on this trip every year.
Well, see, but for me, that's the most satisfying part. It's what do they call those guys in the military who do all the acquisition, that plan the operation and bring in all the equipment and the ammunition and all this stuff. Logistics. I'm into logistics, and a lot of times I've done this before. I've actually, without making a list, have packed everything I've needed for my trip out to Kansas and never missed a thing. Didn't go, oh, damn it. How could I forget, the pickles? I forgot the pickles. That's from SpongeBob, by the way. My daughters and I used to watch SpongeBob a lot.
Hey, I got a feeling you
forgot the pickles.
I got a feeling you come back with probably about 40-50% of stuff you never used.
Yeah,
but you had it if you wanted to.
Well, see, that's the secret, Todd. You always, if you don't use it, that's one thing, but you can't use it if you ain't got it. That's like when you go out into the cold weather. Bring too much because you can always take it off, but you can't put it on if it doesn't exist.
There you go.
All right, what do you got?
Go. Well, we put on the first week of the NFL season, and as we stated last week, Lord Football is back, and he lords over all of us in the NFL in particular. And we're not going to get into the debate and the politics of all that. We're not about that here on this particular show. But we'll see what the ratings were for last night's Trump-Harris debate. But the NFL they picked up where they left off, as they've done each of the last number of years with the opening game was your Kansas City Chiefs and Ravens, and it was their biggest kickoff game audience.
And that was a redo of the championship game.
The AFC Championship, and that got over 29 million viewers, okay?
So far this year, 2024, is that like in the top 20?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we got to go all the way back.
I mean, I'm talking about going back to January 1.
And that's just it. So you got all the playoff games.
Right.
You got the Super Bowl. So this would be it's going to be in that neighborhood, not with the Super Bowl, but maybe some of your earlier round playoff games when there are more of them. But it's the biggest kickoff game audience ever. Now,
it's a new record.
Yeah. So what was interesting also, if you recall, on Friday, you had the game of the Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles down in Brazil. Now, that was only available on Peacock streaming.
Right.
That was the only way you can get it. So I know a lot of people, it's like, nah. So you'd either watch it in a bar that might have Peacock or whatever. But the average person, so they averaged 14.2 million, which was a streaming audience, which is a big number for streaming.
May I stop you there and ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
The NFL is all about making money. So if they're losing 14, I mean, is it that Peacock is paying them so much money, and then how does Peacock make it back when they're getting half the audience that a regular network game would get?
Well, a couple of things.
Whatever
the number is, $5.99 or $6.99 a month for Peacock. So they basically are converting people into keeping paying them that for all of the menu.
It's a come on.
100%.
It's basically.
And they did this, if you recall, back in one of the playoff games back this year. And, everybody signs up for it. And the attrition rate was significant, meaning of the folks that only signed up just to get the NFL game and then said, nope, don't really want this. But they're still converting enough of them where it makes sense. Because ultimately, 5-10 years, probably, yeah, that's where everything's heading. Everything's heading.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but are they paying a premium for these games as opposed to NBC, ABC, or ESPN?
It's all part of the pie. Remember, Netflix only streaming. They're paying, I believe it's $250 million for Christmas Day games, the night exclusive. You got Thursday night Amazon, again, paying exclusively, streaming only. So this is where it's all heading.
So Thursday night, if I want to watch a Thursday night football game and I don't have
to watch
Amazon,
it on Amazon Prime, and that's it.
Well, that's a good
It's
business to be
all
into.
heading in that direction, John. Then the Sunday night game, which was on regular NBC, that averaged $22.7 million. And that was an overtime win there. So, again, huge numbers. The NFL does not disappoint. And the anticipation, the excitement for especially these first couple of weeks is through the roof.
Well, and you got college football going on as well. So it's just like football city, right? Everybody rolls into it, and they used to watch college football on Saturday, and they're watching NFL football on Sunday. But I did read this because we discussed it last week, which I've yet to see it because I was out in the yard working all Sunday afternoon, filling in with the soil amendment. So I didn't get to see any of the games, which I still have yet to see the kickoff and how it works. But according to some of the stuff I read, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah, it kind of is. To date, it's kind of been much ado about nothing.
To me, it's almost like you flip the coin, give the ball to somebody, and play football. And, your punting game would still be viable, obviously.
Where do you want to start? What yard line?
Although then, I don't know, 30-yard line. I don't know. What I don't
come
really
on, let's
see.
make it
in this
easier.
Day and age, make it to 20. I don't care.
Put everybody, start in the red zone. Let's just really tee it up for the offense.
Well, I mean, in that, I don't know college football tiebreaker rules, but basically, you get the ball. Where do they start that? Did they start that on the 30?
No, it's in closer.
20.
It's in closer, and each team gets a chance at the ball. I want to say 20.
Yeah, it's like, let's go home, boys. It's too late. What are we going to play extra innings here? This isn't baseball. It's football, and when it's 60 minutes, it's done. Let's call it a day.
And part of this strategy. I mean, that's where it's still hard to say the word Commanders, but their kicker, who, when you kick it out of bounds, they place the ball at the 40. So there are certain
out of bounds, yes, but out of the end zone, no.
Correct.
Yeah, but that rule's always been there when you kick it.
But the bottom line is, if you got a kicker that can continually pop this from the 20 and in, that could be a valuable weapon.
You mean in play?
Right, in that zone.
And how many people
so brilliantly, mind-numbingly confused ourselves and anybody else with our interpretation of this. But that zone between the goal line and the 20 is where you can dump the ball in there because they got to return it, and that's where your field position comes into play.
Well, if the local team could get their kicker to do exactly that, I'll bet you they could sell a lot more suites. People would come to see him drop that ball from the 20 to the goal line, right? And he could do Babe Ruth, call shot over here, fake him out. Yeah, definitely. I can see the suites just flying off the shelf.
You get a guy that can hit it like a 9-iron, pop that bad boy up, maybe get a little backspin on it.
Well, what if a guy could kick the ball like 200 feet in the air, so that, what they call hang time?
Right.
You had this unbelievable hang time. And so the guy's got to catch it. I mean, then you just have people hovering around the guy receiving the ball, kind of like a punt, really, right?
Maybe it's a hybrid new position between punter and kicker.
What would we call him? A cunter? A cunter or a picker? He'd be a picker or a cunter. It's a combo. I don't know. Let's keep moving.
All right. I know this has been bothering you a lot since Bill Belichick left New England.
I haven't slept a wink.
Well,
by the way, let me just
go ahead. Go for it.
I have no idea who Bill Belichick is really, but I have to say, I had one chance meeting with him 20-some years ago when I was doing the exhibition games for the Jets when I was living in New York, and this has been in the late 90s. I was doing some stuff for CBS up there. And he's out on the field. We're at Giant Stadium, and I forget, the Jets would have been playing. He was coaching with the Jets. Remember? Parcells, when Parcells was the coach there. So he's out there, and I'd never met him, and he's walking up the field. And I said, "Hey, Bill, or whatever I called him, Coach Belichick." I can't remember how I addressed him for sure, but I was friendly, and And I said, "Man, I tell you what, you used to put together some really great defenses here." And he just went, "Yeah," and just kind of kept moving. And I thought, what a dipshit. I mean, I was just trying, but then obviously he had this exhibition game on his mind that was utmost importance.
Football.
And I could see that. Well, I'm not wrapped that way. So I've always kind of thought of him as, and a lot of people do. I mean, but I've also heard there's another side to him that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
He's actually.
He's a close to the vest guy with that really dry, sarcastic humor that because he was so deathly serious that football was life and death to him as the coach, that you rarely, if ever, saw that side to him. So when
he must have been seriously humiliated by his debut in Cleveland years ago. That must have really cut him to the quick.
Yeah,
with the failure that.
Well, you see how fleeting this can be and which way it can go, because a lot of guys never recover.
Exactly.
Never.
Well, they never get another chance.
Like an Eric Mangini,
and he was supposed to be one of the brain child, one of the
Charlie Weiss. The list is long of guys that you fail up, fail down, and. So here he finds him. So I almost could. I was getting ready to say, "Let me guess. This is how your conversation." Hey, John.
Yeah.
You and LT used to really knock it up, bang heads back then. Good seeing you.
He didn't even say that.
He didn't.
It was just basically. It was like, it's kind of like, okay, well, that's the way it's got to be.
Well.
Anyway,
what was fascinating? What was fascinating?
I'm curious to hear what you're going to tell me.
He didn't get much of a sniff as to get a coaching job out of 32 of these prized jobs, and there was a decent amount of openings last year, and he didn't get one. So everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, what's Bill Belichick? What's the legend going to do?" And everybody's, "Oh, we got to have him in the booth. We got to have him this."
How old is he?
72.
Well,
turned 72 in April. But to your point, everybody's like going, do I want to hear Bill Belichick in the broadcast booth?
You want to hear Tom Brady? That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, that is. But it's like some of these guys, do they have this unbelievable on switch that they could turn on? Now they're these personalities. Now Belichick, obviously a brilliant football mind. You can say if it was Brady, you can say it was Belichick, or whatever. There's no denying.
But success.
No question.
And let's go back to his former mentor, Bill Parcells. In this league that we're talking about, the NFL, you're judged by the jewelry you wear.
Jewelry.
And let's just say he's got a lot of jewelry.
That's right. Well, now he has a lot of jobs, because you cannot escape Bill Belichick on TV, on the web, or anywhere, John. Here's the list of what Bill has going on now in this particular football season. So he did a deal with Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 shows with them. So the Manning Cast, which I believe is 3rd year for this. So that's the alternate broadcast that they offer on Monday Night Football.
What do you mean?
So
that's something you pay for?
No. So basically, you got your main broadcast channel that's showing the game with your regular broadcasters. There's the secondary ESPN channel.
Oh, it's ESPN. Okay.
And they've got a broadcast. You've seen it with Peyton and Eli. We've done bits on it.
I don't think I have. I've heard of it.
And they have guests on this, so it's a completely different broadcast. They do whatever they want while the game's going on.
Right.
They have comedians on. They have movie stars on. They have all different types of personalities, people from different walks of life. So he has he will be on that show with Peyton and Eli every Monday. He also then does The Breakdown, a weekly show hosted by Peyton and Belichick that'll stream on ESPN+. In addition to his duties with Omaha Productions, he is the host and co-producer of a weekly show on YouTube called Underdog Fantasy. He also is he's 2 existing programs, Let's Go, a talk show on Sirius XM, and Inside the NFL, the old show that used to be on HBO, is now on the CW, and he is on that particular show. And he
is that the one they do from New Jersey, Inside the NFL?
Well, it's the one they used to do from New Jersey. Yeah. I'm not sure they still
do
it
from NFL Films, I think.
No question.
Yeah.
And then he also has on Mondays, he has a weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee Show, which is the biggest thing on ESPN.
Who's making more money, him or McAfee? McAfee.
I'd say McAfee.
It's got to hurt. They're making more money than a head coach.
Yeah. But
how do you like me now?
You can't escape Bill, so we're going to see if he's got the goods for it. But
that's fascinating to me.
Right?
I mean, how many years was he with New England? Was it over 20? I guess he would have been. Brady played
a long time.
But it's close to 20-some years. I don't know. I'm just like, I mean, you got to figure the guy's got about as much money as he can, unless he's got, you know, like who was it? Drew Brees, you know, unless he's crapped it all away, you know. What do you call it? Going to the gambling houses and other places. I mean, you never know. But I would think after all that stuff, I mean, I don't know. I'm different, I guess, but it's kind of like, why would he need more income? He's 72. He's got how much was his top salary you think he was getting?
John, the man's made a shit ton of money. But as we know,
it's never enough.
It's never enough. It's never enough. I mean, now this guy's a winner, right? This guy is a winner. Love him or hate him, he is a winner. He's 72. Ron Rivera, he got another job on one of these NFL network shows or whatever else. Ron Rivera, not a winner. Not a winner. I don't care any, you know.
Middle of the road guy.
Yeah. Matt Millen.
Yeah.
Abject failure as a GM and a president and running all the show for many years.
Very good player.
Very good player. Not taking anything away at that. But do you want to hear what he has to say about any of this? I think the fans...
Well, you lose your credibility over time.
Of course. That's the point.
If you're not producing something, you kind of go, well,
yeah,
you know, you're a great player, but you don't know what you think you know about the game, or it just hadn't happened for you. But we can only go with Bill Parcells, the jewelry. You ain't got no jewelry.
Right. They're like, he's got the jewelry. Maybe we can make him a personality. Maybe we can play off his dry, droll, sarcastic humor, because this guy's the legend. This guy's the benchmark. And with that, you know, let's say we don't know if Tom Brady's going to be any good in the booth. He was okay.
Yeah, he
was okay.
Had mixed bag on his reviews. But when you think it's kind of crazy though. But I would be curious to see how Belichick develops, because there's also, you know, with all the greatness that he provided as a coach, that doesn't necessarily translate into becoming, you know, like I said, unless there's and I think there is a side of him that nobody really sees. I've heard this before, that he, you know, he's very engaging and, you know, he's got a great sense of humor and all that. If he taps into that, then, you know, it'd be unlimited, I would guess. But not everybody can do that, you know, on command or whatever, because, you know, you think, I mean, to me, Parcells had a lot of success. Nothing like Bill Belichick, who was one of his acolytes in the beginning, right? He was his defensive coordinator while they were in New York. But Parcells, I mean, his personality is just like, you know, he lights it up when he starts talking, because he's that New Jersey wise guy.
Yeah.
And he plays it perfectly.
You know, we got some old footage, and we'll introduce that in some of these upcoming shows, when you and Parcells used to do bits up in New York, and it was hysterical, because he'd mix it up with you, and you'd be taking your shots at him, and he'd give them right back to. I mean, the guy.
He started it, but it was interesting because I remember I had this double-breasted, basically burgundy jacket. Parcells, I wore it on the show, and he says, "Well, you were maitre d' in the wrong time." I'm like, yes, Bill, I love it.
You're my kind of guy.
Yeah, seriously, he'd be my kind of guy.
Well, think about it. Do we want more of the Rex Ryans, who wasn't good for it in the NFL? He couldn't coach, but Rex Ryan is out there.
You know, he did so, but you're
but
right.
a bigger than life personality.
Yeah, Buddy Ryan,
Jerry Glanville.
Yeah.
Right?
Jerry was way out there.
Right. So
didn't he always leave 2 tickets for Elvis?
For Big E. So it's about entertainment. And will Brady let his guard down enough versus this unbelievable curated image that he has? I mean, it's
I'm not sure what his image is, but for me, he comes across as prissy. There's something delicate about him, and yet down inside of him is just a raging, what do I want to say?
Assassin? Narcissist?
No. But somebody who just refuses to have, you know, won't accept failure, basically. He can't. In other words, he's that focused and that determined to be successful. But to the point where, you know, that it seems like a lot of time, particularly towards the end, and particularly the way they changed the rules for quarterbacks. You can't do this. Like, you know, I go back to Terry Bradshaw back when I was playing, and Terry said, well, why don't you just give us skirts? Why don't you just give us skirts? I mean, and then, you know, that you can run, but if you slide, nobody can hit you and all that stuff. Well, you know, you get to where he's always looking at the ref and, you know, looking for, this guy, you know, did something he wasn't supposed to. It's kind of like, you know, Tom, come on, you're a big boy, act like a big boy. I mean, there was something kind
Luckily, well, you just nailed it, John, because then you didn't see the promo that Fox put out, and it's a promo, it's a commercial. I saw it on one of the channels, and commercial break in the debate last night. But it's the promo / commercial about him getting in the booth, and it's about him as starting out as a little boy, and in high school, and in Michigan. I was never told I was good enough. It's that hard luck Scrabble story, and I never forget, and I never fail. So, to your point.
That's who he is. More power to him.
All right.
Yes, Tom. Say salute.
Okay, John, on this episode of Follow the Money and the Power of the NFL, and coming on the heels of Dak Prescott's $60 million.
He's the first one to 60, right?
First one to 60, but again, on an average annual value, they call it AAV. He got 4 years, $60 million, 240. Correct. There are some guys that are making. I think there's one or two guys that might be getting like 70 or 80 million this year because of bonuses and the way the contracts are structured as such or whatever. So average annual value that's guaranteed is also the operative word here. So CeeDee Lamb got a big deal. I mean, the record money that we are hearing about on the player side, records are being broken and shattered because the pot of money in the league, it's approaching a $25 billion a year business. And so with that, it's the formulas and the collective bargaining agreement. The players, they get their fair share. Now with that, this came out last week, and it's the top 10 most valuable NFL franchises calculated by CNBC in conjunction, also with Forbes. And it's fascinating. The Washington franchise exchanged hands 2
years ago?
Yeah, a little over a year ago.
Yeah, a little over a year.
And for I think it was $0.1 billion. It's not even in the top 10, okay? So as we discuss.
But you think in a year's time, and I ask you this because we talk about this, that they would have gotten some appreciation because they set I don't know.
They set the record.
Well, yeah, I was going to say they set the level, the most, I believe at the time, it was, it still is, I think, the most expensive franchise in the world, right?
That has been, yes.
And that would make the Cowboys the most expensive sports franchise in the entire world, wouldn't it?
Correctly. It would make almost all of them.
Yeah.
So they will stay at that figure because they were the new bar, right? So, but now it's all unrealized what their future will hold because they know in the metrics and calculating the purchase price of what this franchise used to be and what you and the Hogs and the 3 Super Bowls and Joe Gibbs, the value that was in Washington under Jack Kent Cook's tenure. I mean, this franchise was top 5 or 6 by every metric available from
Washington,
from attendance, tickets,
the city itself.
And being a top 10 TV market, which is huge, which is why a lot of these that are on this list, it's because of that. So is that the rising tide of gambling, of fantasy sports, of everything in that pot of money that's going up. For the Dallas Cowboys, $11 billion, the LA Rams, $8 billion. You go on down the list.
It's kind of amazing, though, that Cowboys are so much head and shoulders. In other words, the Cowboys are like $3 billion more than anybody else.
Marcus team.
And then it starts to get squeezed into who's in, getting close to second place there.
Yeah, I mean, you could toss a coin pretty much, between, the Eagles and the Rams. And so, Chicago looking for a new stadium. Raiders, everybody sees the gold mine that Las Vegas is going to be. And,
I didn't even notice that. The Raiders, $7.8 billion.
Yeah. So pretty mind-blowing what these 32 franchises and the power of this league and the volume of money that they are dealing with. And it's the guaranteed entertainment that the gift keeps on giving.
You know what gets me, though, and it's kind of interesting, but once again, we are talking about the entertainment world, that a company like Costco, I think they do over $100 billion.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the world of business, but this is the entertainment business,
right? That's what I'm saying. Now, if you were a studio in Hollywood, which is something I guess you could look at, like 20th Century Fox. I don't even know if they're still around or whatever. United Artists, some of these old, but because I don't recognize the new companies out there with your studio heads and all that stuff. I'd be curious to know what they're worth, because they're basically one and the same thing. I've always said that sports and the world of acting or whatever, they're so similar, because it's all about putting
Asses in seats.
Exactly. That's what it's
Well, John, it's like you've always said this. No
Show
different
business.
than the Rolling Stones or Bruce Springsteen going on tour, right? The WWE.
Yeah. Show business.
Movies, it's all entertainment, and in that
It's all-
particular pie, the great thing about this is they've got their employees. They know what that fixed cost is, so that's why all these new TV deals and the power of what they've got. That's why this is a license to print money over here.
Yeah, and like
I
you
mean,
said, with the gambling now getting mixed into it, it's just it's a recipe for success. It looks like.
Yeah, for all 32 clubs, which is why they had to get rid of Dinky Doink. Who they don't, out of 32 teams, they're really trying to get rid of any of the bad actors and people that aren't good for it, aren't good for business, at least on the outward part of it.
Right. Well, they try, do the best they can, I guess. But
Yes, they do. So, John, NFL, good business to be in. Good business to be in if you can get into it. All right, now we've got the Washington Commanders, who are 0-1. Won't delve too much last week's performance with the new crew, the new regime, pretty much the new everything. They got their work cut out for them, and they play the New York Giants this Sunday.
They scored 2 field goals or a touchdown.
I believe it was 2 field goals, and the Giants were god awful as well. They were.
It's hard to believe that this is a must-win game.
It really does kind of feel like it, because home opener for the Commanders,
Right.
And the Giants they look terrible. And then
Who's their quarterback?
And Daniel Jones, and
still there.
oh boy, well, this is his return back, and the memes. They
played at home too.
They
didn't
did, and fans stayed to boo his ass.
Yeah,
and taking shots at him. I mean, New York, right?
That's what I was thinking. New York and Philly. Count on it.
Oh my
It's
gosh!
coming.
After the first game, and this guy coming back, and they are just now. He has played well historically against the Commanders for whatever reasons.
That's true.
So this is.
So what's the line?
This is a pretty big game. What do you think? What do you think?
3.
It is? All right, so you're pretty good. So the line open in some books at Washington giving 3. It has been bet down to 1.5.
Somebody's got faith in the Giants?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And
What's that tell you?
yeah, it tells you that this is must-win game in week 2 of the season.
Week 2
for both
must-win.
for both teams.
Well, I mean, that's not true, but at the same time, having been on teams, I'll never forget that team in 1978, I believe it was like, I think won 7 in a row or something like that, and then lost about 7 in a row. I mean, because I think that team finished 8-8, was leading the division, and it's funny how stuff like that can happen.
Right.
And also, though, you can lose a few games and then kind of come out of it, too, and start, you just got to put, it's like they say, just one, that old cliche is so true, but it's just one at a time. It's one play at a time, really. They always say it's one game at a time. It's one play at a time.
All right. Well, we would be remiss on this day, September 11th, 2024, to not acknowledge and take a pause for that incredible day that we were all a part of, that we continue to remember, and pray that it never happens again. With a lot of brave people lost their lives that day, and a lot of people, it kind of really brought the country together. We were in a much better place, I think, spiritually as a country, where everybody was starting to look at and say, you know what, let's get together here. This is real.
Well, it's like you said, Todd. Let's hope that that the forces that be are out there protecting our citizens in our homeland, because having been in New York City on that very day and remembering some of the stuff that you saw, where you really felt like They're filming a movie outside the apartment. I can see 9th Avenue, and I see all these people. 9th Avenue runs downtown, and I see all these people going uptown on 9th Avenue. There's not a bit of traffic. This must be some kind of a horror movie that I'm watching, like aliens from outer space. Something has happened in New York City, and then seeing the buses parked across the Lincoln tunnels so nobody could get in and out. Everything was shut down. I mean, it's stuff that you cannot ever forget stuff like that. And I think that you bring up a good point. And not that our country ever will, but it's just like the vanguard that's out there that is trying to, take care of business. You hope and pray every day that they're getting the job done.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a good place to call it a day and say this is Riggo, and I'm out of here.